About 1,500 corporations with offices here in town pretty much get their way with a majority of 535 members of Congress. But we're millions of people. The corporations have a lot of money. They don't have a single vote. We're 600,000 people in each congressional district on the average. Once we put the energy in organizing Congress watchdog organizations in every congressional district, at least the level of energy that is exhibited by a serious bird-watching club or bowling league, you will see a dramatic difference in the response patterns of your senators and representatives. The critical mass is about 2,000 people per district who choose watching Congress as their principal hobby, who learn the skills of holding Congress accountable, who learn the talents of getting their member Congress into auditoriums where they are grilled before a local media and full assemblage. 2,000 people per congressional district, focusing on, let's say, a half a dozen transitional agendas, big time. Health care being one, subordination of corporations being two, etc., for starters. If we don't get down to that level of monitoring, we're not getting down to the level of corporate power. But remember, we have more votes than corporations. Corporations are very vulnerable when they are challenged in ways they are not accustomed. And this is one way. Always when you see people who are discouraged, demoralized, you know, the kind of people who, if you had them in a stadium and you said, what's the difference between apathy and ignorance, they'd say, we don't care and we don't know. Even though they're getting ripped off, disrespected, excluded, harmed. You keep saying to them, there's only one person in the House and two in the Senate representing where you live and work. Do they know your name? Have they been face to face? Have you collaborated with your neighbors and friends? The greatest obstacle to the rise of a functioning, persistent, sustainable democracy is the belief by millions of people that they don't have enough power and that they're powerless, and they don't count and they don't matter. That's the way we grow up. That's the way we grow up as children. As my father said to me when I was 10 years old and I came home from school, he said to me, Ralph, what did you learn in school today? Did you learn how to believe or did you learn how to think? I thought about that one for a long time. That's why we have to pay attention to the introduction of civic skills in our elementary and high school. That's civic skills, connecting the classroom to the community. No one can stop us from doing that. We are parents, citizens, taxpayers, local schools. Get it done. The materials have been written by people in this audience. The subject matter is at hand. The children love it when they're given that kind of opportunity. Finally, let's total up our assets. I've described the assets of power of corporations. A lot of the assets of power of corporations belong to us. The timber companies, oil and gas companies, uranium companies, gold companies, they are getting our minerals either free or for bargain basement prices on the public lands. The public lands belong to us. We own them. But we've allowed these corporate entities to control what we own, to profit what we own, to exploit what we own, to pollute from what we own. A few years ago, $9 billion with a B of gold was discovered on our land in Nevada by a Canadian gold company. They got ownership of $9 billion of gold for $30,000 paid to the Department of Interior under the 1872 Mining Act that's still on the books. Imagine, 30,000 bucks, $5 an acre. And they had all the gold. And when they finish exploiting it and selling it, they leave the cyanide-laced waste for the taxpayers to pick up and pay for, to clean up. The public airways belong to us. We own the public airway. That's a tremendous asset. But we've given it away to the radio and TV industry. The FCC gives it away 24 hours a day, free. They don't pay us anything. We're the landlords. The radio and TV stations are the tenants. And they get away since 1927 without paying free. What if we charged them rent? And that would be a lot of money. And we used a portion of it to get back a certain amount of time every day, prime time TV, drive time radio, where we built our own TV and radio stations and production studios, reporters and producers, with the rent, part of the rent that we get from the commercial industry. Is that too radical? Ask a conservative next time whether that conservative believes that if we own something, we shouldn't control it. The same is true for the research and development. Do you realize that almost every major industry that's burgeoning in this country is based on government, taxpayer, research and development? Three-quarters of the anti-cancer drugs developed by tax money out of the NIH. How about the aerospace industry? That's out of the DOD. How about the semiconductor industry? Government research and development. The government developed the internet. How about the containerization industry? That came out of U.S. Navy research. On and on, whether it's biotech, pharmaceutical, semiconductor, computer, aerospace, you name it. It's our money, and it's given free to these companies. They don't even have the decency to have a taxpayer appreciation day on April 15th to say thank you, middle class and lower income class taxpayers. It's not because I haven't urged them to do it in letters to major corporations. Those are some of our assets. But no asset is greater than the asset of an aroused mind in an aroused citizen who is communicating to other people. Word of mouth. Word of mouth is the fastest, most reliable, most credible form of communication with friends, relatives, co-workers, people you meet in the supermarket line. Why, if people spend as much time as they do talking about American Idol in the supermarket line, talking about the absolute necessity to impeach George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and convict them in the Senate, we'd have it done. You know, we're losing our country, we're losing our government, we're losing our future. We have a runaway criminal regime supported by its party in the Congress. The opposition party has caved again and again and again since January, even though it controls the Congress. It's caved on energy, it's caved on the war, it's caved on Iran, it's caved on the Patriot Act revisions, it's caved on even rescinding the tax reductions of the wealthy to pay for the war. When they do that, they're making our children and grandchildren pay for those deficits. And it's also caved on so many of the things that the other parties got through Congress because the Democrats didn't stop them when they had the power to, even though they were in the minority. They could have stopped the war, the Patriot Act, the tax cut for the wealthy.